Hello there friends, this morning Nintendo and Game Freak held their Pokemon Direct, the first Direct of the year, the first Pokemon Direct of the year, the first follow-up since Pokemon Sword and Shield, and they announced some fun, cool, interesting stuff. We'll start with the very first announcement before they got into the meat of it. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX, which is the original Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games on Nintendo DS, which is actually, interestingly enough, the only Mystery Dungeon games I've actually played. They're remaking it, they're making it in HD. I'm not sure it doesn't look nice, I'm still on the fence about whether it looks good or not. I'll see probably when we play it, but I'm excited for a Switch HD version of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, which is available, it's out March 6th. And there is a demo version available today, so if you go to the Nintendo eShop right now, right this second, you can abandon me all you want and go play Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX, play that demo, and progress will carry over to the game. But I really liked that game. They were full of charm, and like the dungeon crawling was a lot of fun. And yeah, those are good little side Pokemon games that I'm excited to relive on Nintendo Switch. And remember whether or not I actually liked, or whether it was my dumb child brain that liked it, because in 2006 I would have been about 14, which isn't really that much in the dumb child brain period, but you never know. I don't trust myself. Yeah, that's out March 6th. It's a full $60 game, full physical release. Hopefully it holds up as a good fun experience in 2020. God, it's 2020. And then the major announcement, the big thing that everyone's here for. They announced 2 batches of Pokemon Sword and Shield DLC. So instead of basically making new versions of the game like they traditionally did with Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, or Emerald, or Crystal, or any of those versions, Platinum, or Black and White 2. They got very unoriginal then. Why didn't they just go for Grey? Grey was right there. But they were releasing 2 full, what seemed like meaty expansions for the game. The Isle of Armor coming in June 2020 and the Crown Tundra coming in fall 2020. And according to them, like both are like full wild area-esque, like free roaming experiences with control of the camera, which again seems like the next step into what Pokemon is going to be. It seems like it's not just we made another set of corridors for you to run down. Instead they're like, this is again further dipping our toe into the future of the Pokemon franchise, experimenting with a more open feeling game. And this one has more like story related experiences, so it's unlike the wild area, which is more just like exploration, catch Pokemon. This one seems to be more like a more traditional Pokemon, you know, run around, fight trainers, I'd imagine, experience more of the story kind of thing. So it's interesting to see them use the more open format for the more traditional Pokemon storytelling approach, and I hope it works, because I think everyone wants that to be the future of the series, and if it's good here, I'd imagine it's what the next Pokemon full game will be, not just the DLC. But yeah, it's fairly unprecedented for Pokemon to have DLC in the first place. Usually, you know, they might offer an update or 2 here or there after the game, but for the most part, when the game is out, the game is done. I don't think they've ever done paid DLC for a Pokemon game. Off the top of my head, I don't believe so. Though I guess technically the next versions were always paid DLC for a Pokemon game, they just happened to come on another physical cartridge. So we have the Isle of Armor, June 2020, where you take an apprenticeship under your mentor Mustard, and he gives you a Kubfu, and Kubfu's adorable. It's a new legendary. It evolves into Urshifu, who has like 2 different forms and all different Gigantamaxes, and I will die for Kubfu, let me tell you. Kubfu is adorable, and you explore all these islands, and it seems very pretty. It seems very like open beaches and water and all that fun stuff, and you have 2 different rivals, Clara and Avery, Sword and Shield specific, Clara for Sword, Avery for Shield, and it looks really cool. And then the other one is the Crown Tundra, where you're in a big winter snow area with lots of temples, and there's another legendary there, Calyrex. And I think the thing that may make people mad coming out of this is that there will be a bunch of new Pokemon in these. Like they said, 200 new Pokemon that weren't in the Galar region, or I guess 200 old Pokemon that weren't in the Galar region will be coming back for these DLC expansions, and I'm not sure how people will feel about that, because it's DLC, but it's also Pokemon they like coming back into the game, but we'll see. There was a bunch of legendaries revealed, including there were 3 versions of birds that looked suspiciously like Galar forms of the legendary birds from Pokemon Red and Blue, of Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres. I'm not sure is that actually the case, but that's what it looked like to me. Maybe they're entirely new birds, who knows? But yeah, they did look suspiciously based on those original designs and updated for a Galar form, which regional forms of legendaries is very interesting. That's an interesting road to go down. But yeah, the most interesting thing for me here is that both these expansions will be more similar to the wild area than the more conventional areas of Pokemon Sword and Shield. Because that says to me, this is the direction we're taking the series as a whole. and hopefully it works here. Hopefully it works as a storytelling experience. Hopefully there's lots of things to do in these more open areas. Hopefully it's not a train wreck, but I'd imagine they won't be like huge areas. I wonder, like, comparatively to the wild area, how big they'll end up being. I really hope it works, because that's the direction I want the Pokemon series to go in. And if these 2 DLC expansions, which I'm perfectly fine, to be honest, with them taking the third form of the game, the third version of the game, which, by the way, Armor totally would have been the version of that game if they released it, so they just incorporated into the Isle of Armor. I guess they could have went with Crown as well, with the Crown Tundra. They were probably sitting there, it's like, are we going to call the next version Crown? Or are we going to call it Armor? How about we just release them as 2 separate DLC expansions? But yeah, I'm completely on board with them releasing these as DLC expansions rather than another form of the game. Each is $30. We'll see, are they worth $30? There's a bunch of Pokemon coming back. There's a bunch of new Gigantamax forms. There's Gigantamax forms of the legendaries. There's Gigantamax forms of Blastoise and Venusaur they showed. And of course now there's Gigantamax forms of the starter evolutions coming in these DLC expansions. So if you wanted your Inteleon to Gigantamax, you will now. Hopefully the open world stuff works. Hopefully this is the expansion again of Pokemon that we're all waiting for, and when they release the next game, when this works, and when this is the Pokemon experience streamlined into a more open, just moving the camera around will be fun enough as it is. Hopefully that works, and hopefully that's the future of the series. Some other stuff, Pokemon Home is coming next month, February 2020, but they didn't say much about it. I imagine they'll have more to say about that coming soon. If you open your Sword and Shield game now, or today, they said there'll be an update where you can get the Galar version of Slowpoke, which will evolve differently in both different DLC expansions based on certain items, but you can catch the Slowpoke now, and they give you exclusive t-shirts if you pre-order the DLC expansion today. That's about it. And also there's a bunch of new cosmetic items for you to wear in the DLC as well. I'm excited. I looked at this DLC and I thought it looks more interesting, honestly, than the core game. And I hope, as I said, that the openness is interesting and the future of the franchise. And I thought everything they showed today looked very good. All the concept art looked good. They didn't have a ton of gameplay in there, but the gameplay they had looked good. And Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX coming in March. That's a cool little, like, side announcement. Let me know what you think. Are you on board for this? Are you still mad about the national decks? Are you mad about them adding 200 Pokemon into it, but for DLC? Let me know. On your left, my review of Pokemon Sword and Shield. On your right, my top 10 Galar Pokemon in Sword and Shield. Thanks for watching.